Hey friends, it's Jill here with the Hometown Homestead, and I'm giving our week 2 check-in for how our pantry challenge is going. If you're new to my pantry challenge, let me give you a quick recap of our rules. Our goal is to only spend $20 a week plus what we have available in our pantry, which thankfully is pretty well stocked. We're also trying to eat 1 seafood dish a week, eat 1 meal with corn per week, and have 1 pasta dish a week just to use up some of the extras that I have in my pantry that haven't been moving very well. So how'd we do this week? Well, we ended up spending $13. $8 went to Walmart on Monday, and I was a little nervous to see how the rest of the week was gonna go, but it actually worked out really well. We got 1 big bag of green beans plus some bananas that were on sale. And then we also picked up a pound of butter at the end of the week, which ended up being $5 all by itself with tax. So a total of $13 spent, leaving us $7 excess to roll forward into the next week. Adding that with the $9 that we had the week before, and we have $16 extra for things that are coming up down the road. A couple things to mention before we get started. First, any recipes mentioned will be linked in the comments below. And secondly, stay tuned to the end where I'm gonna go over my 5 key takeaways from week number 2. All right, now let's jump on into the food. Now, Sunday started off with what I called Barbie Sunset Soup. That actually didn't fly with the girls and didn't make them want to try it anymore, but it was really, really good. It was the golden lentil curry soup from the Minimalist Baker, and it was really, really delicious. I had some red lentils and carrots that needed to be used, so this was a fabulous way to do it. Plus, it's full of fiber, protein, and really quick and easy to put together. All I had to do was toss some onions, garlic, and ginger into a pot with the carrots and broth, coconut milk, curry powder, soy sauce, and you're good to go. We topped it off with some homemade sourdough croutons from the bread that I had made earlier in the week. And while it was a hit with some, it was a miss with others, of course, because it wasn't a sandwich as my one sandwich and taco loving girl prefers. If you've ever tried any of the recipes from the Minimalist Baker, you'll know that they always turn out pretty dang delicious. So if you haven't tried anything out from there, definitely check out theMinimalistBaker.com and pick up some of her recipes as you go.
Good, really tasty.
What do you think, Say?
Good.
Did you like the Barbie Sunset Soup?
Yes.
What do you think, sister?
Possum sunset soup.
Possum Sunset?
Sweet.
Sis, you love it? You want more, Channy?
Kick to it, it's good.
Chanster? Do you need more?
Yes.
Do you need more? Monday was probably our #1 meal of the week. I roasted off some of our beautiful chicken thighs with the homemade pesto that I canned from the gardening season and tossed away in the freezer. So what I do with that is I roast off the chicken thighs mixed with pesto and olive oil on a sheet pan in the oven and let all of those juices just stay in a pan until the skin is crisp. Traditionally, I throw this together with some roasted potatoes and onions all on the same sheet pan in the oven and make a 1-pot meal. But since we're out of fresh potatoes and I'm trying to use up the pasta, I decided to make a pesto cream sauce with sun-dried tomatoes as our side dish for the night, and it really was a hit. That said, the kids definitely missed the potatoes on the side because they love those crispy roasted potatoes along with their chicken that they traditionally enjoy. But that said, the cold pasta ended up making a really nice addition straight out of the fridge for the rest of the week, so it definitely was well loved and one that we'll be doing again. Also, to the cream sauce, I tossed in some of my beautiful sun-dried tomatoes that I did in my dehydrator during the summer. Luckily for me, we did have some leftovers because I cooked 10 chicken thighs and we just don't go through that many in one meal. So I was able to cook once and save the rest for a meal later in the week.
Good.
How's our thumbs? Thumbs? Sissy, you got a thumb for me? Thumbs up? 2 thumbs up, I like it. On Tuesday, I threw together one of our family favorite soups to keep around in the cold winter months, which we call taco soup, or one of my little ones calls taco chili. To make the soup, I put 1 pound of ground pork and 1 pound of ground beef together and browned those off before adding in extra seasonings as well as some beans and 2 cans of corn from the pantry. Seasonings that I used, taco seasoning of course, but I also have a homemade powdered ranch dressing or fake ranch because at the time I made it we were gluten-free, and it was a really, really nice added flavor for the soup. We topped that with some shredded cheese, some sour cream, and some tortilla chips, and it makes for a really great dish that the kids are ready to eat for lunch in the days to come, which is always a big hit for me when I only have to cook one meal and get extra mileage out of it down the road. While some of my kids go crazy for taco soup, I have others that just want a plain taco. So when I was prepping the meat, I grabbed out a couple big scoops of just regular ground beef with taco seasoning to put aside for my taco lovers to have a taco anytime they needed one throughout the week when they didn't want to take part in the meal that I was tossing on the table. Now, on Wednesday, I pulled out the remainder of those chicken thighs from Monday and went ahead and warmed them up. The goal was to make my sourdough, no-wait, delicious pizza crust and put together a chicken pesto pizza, complete with sun-dried tomatoes, shredded mozzarella, onions, and of course the chicken that I made the other day on top of a pesto base. Now, before I was able to get that done, some of my kiddos just wanted the plain chicken. So some of them took part in the same meal that we had on Monday, pulling out the leftover chicken and pasta to go ahead and have that for their dinner, added with some sourdough bread and some salad. Now, as for the pizza itself, it was absolutely fabulous. I definitely recommend this. If you haven't seen my pizza recipe, I will definitely make sure to link that at the end because this is one of the main reasons that I love having a huge sourdough starter, because in a flash, I can pull out my sourdough and put together several pizza crusts, letting the kids top them the way they wanted. But for tonight, it was the beautiful chicken pesto pizza, and it really, really was delicious. Now on Thursday, we decided to go with a venison sourdough skillet, and I find that this is a really good way to use up some of that deer meat that we have packed away in the freezer from the fall's harvest. So the first thing that I did was take out the deer steak, thaw it, and then cut it into bite-sized pieces, and not just normal adult-sized bites. I wanted it the size that my kids can eat without help, because I'm all about making it as easy for me when it's time to eat as possible. So cubing up the steak, sauteing it off until it's browned over in the skillet with some salt and pepper before removing that meat and setting it aside while I went ahead and got some frozen vegetables in the skillet. I added peas and carrots as well as some mushrooms and mixed a mushroom gravy to pour on top before adding everything together and combining it with a sourdough skillet tapia recipe that you can find at Farmhouse on Boone. It really, really is really good, and some of my kids of course loved it, some didn't. That's just the way it goes. One thing I found interesting is my kid that loves sourdough bread didn't want the bread on top of his deer. He loved the inside of the pot pie, but he didn't like the crust. Others like the crust and not the inside. But that's just kind of what I can expect with a house full of kiddos with different tastes. That said, I do think we'll probably do this one again, but we'll just have to vary it a little bit to see what I can do to pull all those kiddos to happiness, like the chicken from the days before. So on Friday night, I decided to go the direction of seafood since I had missed it earlier in the week. I took a bag of shrimp out of the freezer, as well as a couple bags of stir-fry vegetables from my freezer stash. Now, at this point, I used a couple of Cook's honey garlic shrimp recipe to go ahead and get the shrimp sauteed up and seasoned, added the vegetables, and then added the marinade at the end to make sure the vegetables and the shrimp all had the same consistent, delicious flavor. Now, we served this on a butter rice, and I can tell you there was not one scrape left of the pan. Every single person was happy, and this is one we will definitely do again multiple times if my kiddos have their way. The honey garlic shrimp made for a fast and easy, delicious, healthy meal on the table in minutes, so definitely make sure to check that one out. Now, Saturdays at our house is game day, but it wasn't just any special game day, it's my husband's birthday. So as a result, we made a few changes, and I did veer slightly off track, but it wasn't for lack of trying. We actually made a sourdough birthday cake, which was the chocolate recipe from Farmhouse on Boone, which was fabulous. We had cinnamon rolls for breakfast, and I put a pot of chili in a crock pot to where once the game were over, we were able to run home, have our lunch, sitting here waiting on us, and then go back to watch a cousin play. But that said, it didn't quite work out like that. We decided after our big win to head out and have lunch for my husband's birthday. So I broke the challenge rule, and we did have one meal out this week. But I don't regret it. It was super good, and we all had a great time. When we came home for the day, we had that delicious pot of chili still ready to go, and that was our Saturday night meal. We have a few people in our house that like their chili different ways. Some like it straight, some like it with cheese and sour cream, and others like it with just a splash of vinegar. When I put this chili together, I made it with a mix of beef as well as venison. So it was a really nice mix. And again, another way to incorporate some of what we've had hanging out in the freezer to fill everyone up and get them ready for bed. So that actually wraps up the meals that we had all week long here at the house, and I think it went pretty dang well. There's a few things that I've taken away so far, and I'd like to take just a minute to share those with you. The first thing is we obviously cheated and broke the rule, but it was worth it, and you should be a little bit flexible even when you're on a challenge like this. My kiddos are starting to ask, is this part of the challenge? Or one come to me today and said, can we add butter to our challenge? I'm like, yeah, girl, we're not gonna run out of butter, I promise. We'll continue to keep that going forward. Being a little bit flexible is definitely the name of the game when you're involved in a pantry challenge. The second thing is, it's definitely super easy to say no to extras and to really take a hard look at a purchase before making it now. Trying to stick to that $20 budget is really making us get creative on what we're eating and how we're making it, as well as what we're gonna buy next and going forward, and spreading out some of those purchases, or just looking for ways to buy it at the most cost-efficient price and the best price available depending on what store that we're stopping at along the way. Instead of going to a local store yesterday, I actually picked an alternative because I was hoping to save just a little bit of money on my butter, but there was definitely a lot of thought into getting the best price in order to conserve my $20. One thing we have been able to do is stop random trips to the store for an obscure ingredient and to find alternative selections available at home, or just to skip an ingredient from a recipe altogether if we don't have something similar that we can use at hand. The awesome news that we have now is that we're rolling into week number 3 with a $16 surplus in addition to the $20 that we have budgeted. So we have $36 to go into this week. Now that said, we still do need the butter as mentioned before, and $14 of that is gonna go to butter that I'm gonna have my husband pick up at Sam's Club before he comes home tomorrow. So that number is gonna tick down fast, but it's been really nice to have that surplus available and know that we can afford the things we need based on what we've been doing so far and still make delicious meals at home. Now, don't forget, all of the recipes that I mentioned are gonna be linked down in the description. So if anything that we made this week is sounding interesting to you, make sure to check that out. Also, my menu for next week is looking really, really good. So make sure to subscribe if you're interested in more creative ways to feed a family on a budget. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you back soon.